Welcome to another episode of Data Gurus. I am so excited to welcome my guest, Georgina Nelson, who is the CEO and founder of TruRating. Welcome, Georgina.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
It's sunny. It's Friday.
Yeah.
Why not? Right? um, Georgina, I am so fascinated by your background. And before we dive into the business, it would be wonderful just to hear a little bit about your background before you started TruRating.
Well, I started my life in psychology, where I became obsessed with how to measure consumers and their experience. And then I had a bit of a left field turn where I became a lawyer. And in my last role, I was a lawyer for a company called Which in the UK, which is Europe's largest consumers association, basically. So I was representing consumer rights across Europe in the whole world of big data, privacy,
Wow.
etc. So I was sitting opposite the likes of Google, Facebook, Amazon, who were arguing to the legislators that they wanted piles of consumer data. And I was there saying, consumers need to have consent, be aware,
Right.
etc. And then on the flip side, my dad was in bricks and mortar retail for 30 years. So he was CEO of the Booksellers Association.
Right.
And he basically lost 50% of his members with Amazon coming on the scene.
Wow.
And so he was all about fighting back against Jeff Bezos with an incredible in-store experience and service standards. But ultimately, when I spoke to him, I was like, how are you going to measure whether any of these training strategies are effective, what consumers like? Yeah, he had no data. And the most he did was show me these receipt-based surveys, which are the sort of standard traditional customer
Yeah.
experience measurement. And I was just like, God, Dad, like 1% of people are feeding back. Like most of them, it's just complaints. Like, this isn't trustworthy data. You can't be making decisions off the back of this. And so, yeah, I began thinking there has to be a better way to get robust representative data into the hands of retailers and other companies.
Amazing how the two worlds kind of
Yeah.
overlap, right? In terms of
Yeah.
for your dad's business, but then also professionally, you're advocating for all these consumer rights.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I think just knowing the power of consumer data to successful, if you know your customers want, that's the secret sauce to any successful business. And like, when you actually think about, it's how broken it is as an industry at the moment. Yeah, it seemed it would be easy to fix, but it wasn't that easy. It's
Yeah.
taken a while.
Well, what I love about your journey, because I talk to a lot of young people, is that, they feel so fixated that they need to know exactly what they're going to do when they graduate from college. And the reality is that it's a long journey and you can take twists and turns and really follow your intuition as to what feels right.
Yeah.
Sounds like you did.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's, everything, I always think everything in life has a reason. Each
Yeah.
experience plants a seed and opens another door. And,
Yeah.
I guess, it's just having the gut and strength to follow that door, open, pursue those
Sure.
open doors, even though they might be different to what you've done previously. So,
Did you know you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
no, I never thought I never really thought about it, but I guess, I'm always someone who has a mission. I believe passionately in making and wanting to make things better. So
Right.
I would be, lobbying for animal rights when I was 7 and, like, or I'd always have, and
Okay.
so, I do believe I passionately believe that the world needs better data,
Yeah.
better information and that leads to better decisions, better experiences for consumers, more successful businesses. And so I guess to that extent, I always knew that yeah, I would have to believe and be so motivated in my job um, and feel, I'm very much purpose driven. So,
I love that. I love that. So tell me, what does True Rating do? What
well,
pay?
so yeah, so when I was looking at this issue, I thought if you could make feeding back to businesses super simple and super quick, then all of us would, all of us would rate. I've never filled in a survey, but I'm always happy to answer one quick question.
Right.
And so I thought with my psychology hat on, I thought, rather than asking, 20 questions, you just ask one, like, and each person in will say get a different one of those 20. So you can rotate them. And then I looked in a store environment and I noticed the payment terminal where, we're all trained to read, to answer, to pay. And a massive problem in the review space is so many of them are fake. And I thought if you can integrate with a payment terminal, you know that everybody is a trusted, validated customer. And I was also at that time working a lot with they're called the nudge unit, like our UK government level. And it's like nudge theory is this
Right.
sort of behavioral economics theory that if you look at these practices which we do in everyday life, you can bring mass behavioral change if you change them just, slightly in the margins. And it's not asking people, you know, a lot of people, their time, etc., and changing anything. And so that's why I thought, like, just literally asking another question on a payment terminal, it's such a little ask. And so that's essentially what we did. And because of those integrations, which we've got with payment terminals, we get to see how much people spent, what's in their basket, how often they return, and obviously what they answered to that specific question. And you can correlate all of those. And that means you suddenly, get to an incredible, business model, ROI insight where you can say, right, we can see that greeting people at the door leads to people spending 20% more
I
in that shopping mission,
yeah.
and they come back more frequently. And yet we can see some of our stores are doing it 10% of the time. This is, and then with that volume of data, you can see across shift times. And so then you can really begin to, make effectual change and improve that customer experience. So yeah, whether it's we obviously have an online solution as well. Um, and yeah, we hear from 80% of consumers in store answer the question. And around 40-50% online. So I really think, it's just getting to that model of engagement where consumers are happy to rate.
Does your company aggregate all that data and analyze it for the retailer, or is it something that you empower the retailer to do on their own?
Yeah, either or. So we have dashboards,
Mhm.
everything from the CEO down to the store manager. We've got a 90% engagement of our dashboards. So I think it's building it on the premise of Fitbit rather than a really scary stats package. It was how can you make complex data, but really accessible and action orientated. So it's really easy that you don't want people on your dashboard for ages. You want them on there for a few seconds to know what they need to do. And then, some businesses just will give us our data in a raw format and they plug it in themselves. And then others, we have a data science team and a customer success team who will really work with our businesses to understand, what are their goals? What are they testing in store? What are they aiming for? And we can align, question campaigns to go with that. So I think, I think it's all just around being really flexible to try and fit in with what our partners need from us and have a model to meet that.
What's the most common question retailers ask?
I think, it was whether well, we have core questions, so 5 core questions, which every retailer has, which, is always in every set, and they can use that for benchmarking. And obviously, businesses are very much still entrenched with the traditional NPS, and that's what they might report to the street. Their board want to see what's your NPS. But essentially, from our perspective, we don't really, it's a very broad brush. Like people will recommend you, but it doesn't really say why or what you need to do to improve on that. So I guess NPS is our most popular, you know, hallmark, but from our side, it's very quickly businesses will be like, okay, so how can we dive deeper into this? And what other questions can we ask to really understand that element of customer experience? I think what's what's interesting, we've heard from just close to 700 million consumers now. And yeah, the most important question, which is related, the one thing which is related to the highest to future transaction numbers in terms of people spending more and coming back more frequently, is whether you were greeted in store.
Really?
Yeah,
That's amazing. I would have never thought that.
yeah. And I think, like, again, with my psychology hat on, it's like, I think it's that breaking of the ice and making a human connection with someone
Walk in.
that, like, just simply someone saying, hi, hello. Like, you may feel that you can approach them if you can't find anything, that you can, ask questions. And that's often what leads to, the first step, which then leads to a sale and conversion.
That's so fascinating. So those little robots that drive around the grocery store don't make a difference?
That's another thing which I think is amazing in terms of how much money is spent on, new tech, and tech to often replace humans in these environments. And like, I understand all the stresses there is on, on recruitment, on churn, on trying to get people in the stores to actually work, work for you. I'm sympathetic to all those challenges, but like, hands down, we see that the human connection and that element of human service is what people want, is what they're looking for. And I think if you're making investments in tech, it should be around taking the busy work off your team so they can actually be out front and engaging consumers, and not, handwriting a timetable or whatever out the back. So yeah, I'd say, yeah, it's what we're seeing again and again, that like the store teams, they're your brand ambassadors. They're the people who can win over the hearts and mind of your customers, and yeah, lead to a successful.
Now that I'm thinking about the stores that I visit, you're right. I do say hi to the same people that I see
Yeah,
on a regular basis. So you end up sometimes having a personal conversation and you carry on with your shopping. So that I never thought of it, but I now it makes perfect sense.
with Nike, their major franchisee in Australia, we ran a whole series of questions to try and see what had the biggest relation to how much people spent in the moment. And for them, it was whether you're asked your name, whether a store associate asks your name as you're buying, say, a pair of trainers. And yeah, so if you're asked your name, you spend 32% more.
The Cheers show where everyone knows your I can't remember what show it is when
Oh
everyone
yeah.
knows. Yeah. Uh, it makes sense. It makes sense. Well, and also I think the beauty of your solution is that you have all the other data that you can correlate to. It's not just about a question or the 20 questions that a retailer can have, but you could look at probably linking it to loyalty data,
Yeah.
demographics, credit cards.
Yeah, it's all anonymous. So obviously with my background in like consumer rights and privacy, I was just really keen that consumers could feedback and not be then spammed on a marketing list. And so yeah, it's all anonymous. But as you say, just yeah, like we just rolling out intelligent questions because of the data which we collect, what's in the basket, we can respond intelligently to those triggers. So you scan, yeah, scan a can of Coke. What
Yeah,
made you buy Coke today?
got it.
The taste? Is it the price promotion?
Right.
And, yeah, or your loyalty card. If you're a high tier loyalty member, we can ask you, what do you think about the reward scheme? So really like getting to targeted audiences so it's relevant for them. Yeah, and we donate to children's charities with each rating. And so,
Oh, that's
and also,
fantastic.
yeah, and at a store level, we sync the ratings to Google so consumers can go on and see how other people have rated that store. So, a sort of, I guess, a competitor to the likes of Yelp or TripAdvisor, but
Yeah.
it's all for validated in-store ratings. So really building in that, like opening up data to that whole circle, and bringing benefit to consumers and the businesses.
How long ago did you start the company?
Yeah, so I started it when I had my daughter, and that was, so she's 10 now. But I guess the first couple of years, I didn't really, yeah, I sort of worked while she slept, and so
She must have been a lot.
COVID. COVID hit us around it was a bit of a slap in the face for with all our
I'm
stores
sure
shutting.
you are, right.
So,
Um,
but yeah, we what doesn't kill makes you stronger. So,
yeah.
come back harder and after the pandemic. So yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting growth journey.
And what is the biggest, let's say, objection that retailers might have to a solution like this? Like, do you run into challenges where people are like, you know what, this X, Y, and Z, it doesn't suit my needs.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like sometimes people might have this idea of personalization and wanting to attach everything to somebody's name, uh, but a bit very rapidly, like um, and that's usually someone whose like title is personalization or something. Rapidly people understand that you're just not going to get that volume of data and buy-in if you're getting into the world of privacy data. Um, and I think, to be honest, we rarely get any people people want it so badly. The problem is it's working with yeah, we work with the payments companies, deploy our tech, and so it will be um just, we've got to get tested by the IT teams before store deployment. And so yeah, so that can take just getting on potentially getting on an IT roadmap or waiting for a till update or, it's those types of delays. Uh,
More process oriented.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I think the fact that, we've been like our retention rates are like 99%, 100% from pilot to full rollout, and we're working with so many major brands in every different vertical. I think now people have that confidence, retailers have that confidence that they can see it and trust it. I think early days when you're coming out with something so, you know, people haven't heard of it before. Uh, yeah, you don't. I think we decided to do pilots, which I think is really important for any new technology, just so people could, test it and
Get their hands on it, understand it.
yeah,
Yeah, makes
yeah.
sense.
So I think that's been key. Yeah, being key for us and our success.
And what's your perspective on in-store retail? Like everybody always, I think COVID clearly changed consumer trends in a big way.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we've asked a lot of questions on what makes people shop online and store, etc. And it's just convenience will win for buying things online. Like I need it tomorrow, whatever. But there's no enjoyment, really. Like there's like when you actually look at the dopamine, noradrenaline, of you trying a dress in a store and it looking amazing and you walking out holding it and carrying it with you, and that's yeah, yeah. And I think the retailers which we work with, um, and which, excel repeatedly, are those which just they see the store as an experience hub, and that's, you come in and you're immersed in the brand, whether it's somewhere like Five Below and it's just such a fun, lively treasure hunt, or whether it's, Fortnum and Mason, who's, one of our customers who is, the department store for the king and queen in England. And yeah, you walk in there and yeah, it's like, it's all about making your perfect cup of tea with, blending different teas personally for you or your perfumes or, it's just an assault on the senses and it's a emotional, physical reaction. So I think, yeah, I think if you, if there's a way for you in that retail environment to encourage someone to try an aspect of your product, whether that's, like in Sephora, let us, put on that lipstick or um, yeah, like test drive a car or let me help you put that into the changing rooms. Can I find another size? Like hands down, that leads to, again, higher conversion, higher loyalty. And I think that's what physical stores bring. You can touch, you can play, you can experience the products, and any way which a retailer can encourage that in store will, yeah, will yield. We've seen yield results.
Well, I think, it with all the tech and the digital distraction and multitasking, when you have to go into a physical store, you're immersed in that experience.
Yeah,
It's it's relaxing.
yeah. My
Because
husband says the only times I ever say I love him are when I go shopping. I'm like, that's not
it's
true.
so funny.
Actually, probably is.
That's funny. Oh, right, because you're not distracted by 10 billion other things.
Well,
You're
and
in
also you're like really, yeah, it just makes me, yeah, it makes me happy when as I say, it's that dopamine hit when
That's funny.
you just have fun.
Yeah.
So,
So, what's the future? What's next for you guys in terms of the company and its trajectory?
yeah, well, yeah, last year was 150% growth, and I think this year is looking that we're gonna beat that. So, yeah, it's really, it's just exciting, really, working with so many retailers on a lot of the new innovation which they're pushing out, and really, like, working with them to discover whether that's building the ROI, whether it's what consumers want. So, but then on the other side, we're just with its intelligent questions, we're now working with CPGs. So, companies like Coca-Cola who are desperate to really understand what that end consumer thinks of their brand. They've the focus group and, old traditional, again, like ways of market research. I think they're just tired. And especially when you look at, like the Gen Zs of this world, like they're not gonna go home and answer a 50, a 50 question survey. And so the micro, whether it's rating your Uber, rating with TruRating, um, I think we're able to, yeah, really hit on a group there. And I think as we launch that whole intelligent question uh, product range this year, that was going to be quite exciting. So, yeah, we're all just basically working our asses off and focusing on growth. So it's an exciting
Obviously, on the grow.
time.
I think the charity aspect also would appeal very much to Gen Z as well in terms of the
Yeah.
answer my question.
Yeah, I always, again, when I had my consumer lawyer hat on, it was always the fact that, like, you felt that people were making money off your data and there was no fair exchange. And so, this idea that we donate on people's behalf to children's charities, um, and also it's something which, yeah, from a philosophical perspective, I'm always keen on supporting. Yeah, so I think, yeah, we're continually seeing that sort of purpose driven, ethics is really important to
That's
that.
fantastic. You're able to balance all of that. It's important because sometimes you lose sight
Yeah,
of your kind of your core values as you get the pressure of growth. But impressive that you're balancing all of that.
thank you.
Well, Georgina, thank you so much for joining me today. It was lovely to meet you, and I wish you all the best on your journey.
Oh, thank you so much. A real pleasure. Thanks for having me.